Florida. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Hey, Nick, good morning.
Good morning,
to you, my friend.
That's just on the phone, Mario, he's calling.
Yeah, that's what, I believe it good from you.
Mr. Jerry, how you
Okay, we are ready.
Hey, Dick, it's not real.
Is that thing ready over there?
Yes,
I'll
that's
turn
ready.
it on.
Okay. Good morning, let's call the meeting to order, please. It is Tuesday, September the 8th. We're here for our regular council meeting. We're gonna stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Kathy,
Here.
Mr. Pollock,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Call. Here. Mr. Key.
Here.
Thank you. Before we start, I want to make one announcement. Last week, we lost Bill Colbert. Some of you may remember Bill. He was our fire chief here for several years. He lived, down on Alabama, corner of Alabama and, Florida. Thank you. Get those. His service was Saturday. Our fire department participated in, helping out with that, and, I just wanted him to be remembered. That those who might not have known him, but if you did know him, you wouldn't have forgot him. He was a special friend of mine and, did a great job for the city. Bill Colbert. All right, moving to our regular agenda.
That's
It's,
Mario.
yes,
Okay.
yes, sir, thank you. Hey, Mario, you with us? Is that all you got?
Just a second. Yeah. Good morning.
Mario, say something one more time, that's better.
Test, 1, 2, 3.
The phone works from my end.
Okay, we can hear you, thank you. We have everyone, here, and the first item on our agenda is the resolution, 20-27, which is a change order. My understanding on this was that, Nick thought that even though it's a decrease, that we needed to do a resolution just like we do when we do an increase.
That's correct, we've done this probably 3 or 4 times since the hurricane, just to stay consistent.
Okay, not a problem. Do I have a motion to read resolution 20-27 by title only? No, excuse me, that doesn't have a title on this, just a motion to read resolution 20-27.
Make a motion to read resolution 20-27.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I think it's fairly self-explanatory that it's, the resolution in itself says so. Is there any opposition to reading? Ms. Lindsay, would you read, please?
A resolution of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, approving change order number 1 to the city's agreement with GAC Contractors, Inc. for the stormwater inspection and cleaning project, resulting in a decrease in inspection costs in the amount of $15,796.55.
Motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 20-27.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy,
Yes.
Mr. Pollock,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Call. Yes. Mr. Key.
Yes.
Okay, number 2. Excuse me, is that vacant land on La La Lane? We set a price of $69,000 by Zach's office or any real estate office has an obligation to at least present to us whatever the offers are, and so in this case, this is nothing more than him keeping us informed that we have a offer of 59.9, and it can be as simple as we reject it, or we counter, or we do whatever. We had I believe it was 69 firm.
Yeah.
When it's 69?
Our last discussion on this, we did a first reading of an ordinance, and we clarified that it was at a minimum price of 69,000, so 69 is where we were last time, and if you wanna go lower than 69, we can. We'll just have to take a step backwards on the ordinance.
Well, the reason for this being in here is the obligation from the real estate agent to present us with
What's going on?
whatever's going on. I mean, so, can we counter, or can we, or the way that's written, I'm a little surprised, we etched in stone that it's 69?
So, we only did a first reading on the Lila Lane property, and on our first reading, we said that the ordinance was at a minimum of 69,000. We can counter on this, and it doesn't have to be 69,000, but if we do that, we'll need to do a first and a second reading still of an ordinance instead of just a second reading. They built in an October closing date though, so there is some time available to do something like that. But you can counter if you'd like.
Well, we'll load it to the floor. It may be as simple as just no, I don't know, but I'm just trying to get everybody what our options may be if we want to do anything. I forget what we had another offer that was higher than this one.
I'll check, I think it may have been 62.
Has
We-
this
that we
property been
rejected.
appraised?
Excuse me?
Has this property been appraised?
No, other than by just local market value, based on what's going on around it, what the other one sold for.
My opinion, I just get mine out of the way, I think land prices here is going up. I think we just need to stick it at 69 and see what else comes along.
I agree with that.
All right, if that's the consensus, then we don't need to spend any more time other than just reject the offer.
Okay, did I understand they had a count of not counting another offer of 66?
No, I
62.
thought we
62.
rejected that one.
The other
Last-
offer was
last
62.
time.
And
Well,
we
if we
rejected.
reject 66, I certainly reject 59.
Okay, well, hey,
I'm glad you come to it with it though.
all right, so, then we just simply stick with our selling price and move on. Okay? Benji, if you would make a note of that,
Yeah, got it.
okay? That's simple. Number 3, 500-year floodplain, Darrell Key.
Okay. We had talked, when we had the meeting on the L Governor, about, we're looking at the 500-year floodplain. I've done a lot of study on the 500-year floodplain, had a lot of input on it, and then the pile is pretty healthy. The question is that Mario said that we were gonna mess up our FEMA money. And Nick and Dina's not here.
I think she's watching online, she said we can reach her if we need to.
Okay, so I had a meeting with Dina and Nick, and we had on a conference call, the state floodplain manager and one of her people. And we discussed, what kind of issues were there for retracting or rescinding the 500-year floodplain. And they don't have a problem with us doing it. There's nothing that we're gonna jeopardize with the state by rescinding it. We ended the conversation with those folks, and then Nick and Dina and I talked. Dina was gonna get Nick some information to get in contact with the FEMA people, so did you get any information from FEMA people or anything that we could look at?
No, not yet.
And why?
The explanation I heard was that the call was, there wasn't an opportunity during the call. But the
There wasn't an opportunity during which call?
Monday afternoon call that Dina participated on, but that it's still in the works. We can get her feedback now if you'd like, but no, we don't have that yet. I know that Mario has spoken on multiple occasions with FEMA folks. He may have some input.
Well, I spoke to Mario 3 times and asked Mario to get some documentation because he's told me 3 separate times that it's gonna mess up our negotiations with FEMA. And I told Mario, each time, you need to get me that documentation and get me something so that I'll know so that we can consider it. And none of, it has not been done. And this goes back at least 2 months, okay? So, Mario, if you wanna speak to it, I know you're listening, but, you know, I can't find, and nobody can seem to find that there's any kind of issue with FEMA. I don't know how there's an issue with FEMA because FEMA didn't dictate to us that we had to do a 500-year floodplain. As a matter of fact, the city administrator at the time contacted the state. They acknowledged that and wanted the state to help her with implementing a 500-year floodplain, and that's what they did. That's contrary to what she stated in an email to the city council. I've got that for the record if we need it. And so, you know, what do you got? We haven't.
Conversations with FEMA, as normal, are not, real direct in telling you one thing or another. However, on the projects that we do have underway, such as the marina project, those are the projects where we'll have to redesign, and the 500-year floodplain is different than the 100-year floodplain. Now, on the marina portion, which is over within the DCPL line, I don't think that the 500-year floodplain will have an effect because it already overrides it by the coastal control line. On the boat ramp section of the project, it would probably lower the building, so we would have to redesign that building to its lower elevation, rebid the project. The project is already out to bid. We've been holding that project for 120 days. And we're literally, every time we talk to FEMA, they tell us that we're at the cusp of getting an answer on the boat ramp project. On the police station, fire station, and city hall, where we've relocated them from the area because the 500-year floodplain would require them to be about 9 feet in the air over to the new site that's behind Public Works. That is probably the most complicated because we have moved things to that site because of the elevation that the building would have to be at. If it doesn't have to be at 9 feet, we may end up back at the old site, which is over there, I think, off of 14. So those are the 2 biggest complications. The park project on Sunset Park, again, the coastal control line will override. On the project that we've already built, they're already built, so they can't do a whole lot about it. But on the projects where we're under design and or bid and have a price, it would put them back on the drawing board and or require them to literally go back on the original site for the police station and fire station.
Possibly, right? I mean, FEMA could also leave it where it's at if they wanted to. The way,
And they're gonna go to the most stringent code that we had, and the most stringent code, if it's in flux, my concern is that they're gonna tell us we're on hold until things get worked out.
well, I mean, we've been waiting on them to work stuff out for really about 2 years now, right?
Yes, sir, and we will, it's part of the process, there's nothing quick about it.
Okay. Well, you know, FEMA, there's not gonna be anything quick, like you say, but, I tell you what is quick and what has happened already, we've got a lot of people that have paid a lot of money to build up to the 500-year floodplain. We got a lot of people that are fixing to build up to the 500-year floodplain, and FEMA didn't institute that. They didn't tell us that we had to do that. They didn't recommend that we did that. The only thing that we did is we did it to get on the CRS program, and that program, which we're actually not even on yet, you know, Panama City has a rating of 5 on that CRS program. In the documentation, it says that we ought to be able to achieve what Panama City Beach has, which is an 8. We may be beating Panama City Beach, but the CRS, we're not getting thrown out of the CRS. All of the stuff that we're doing and have done and will do, it's just like the freeboard. All of the freeboard stuff earns us points. The rating system and the rating point basis on CRS, we're not gonna get thrown out of that. On top of that, everybody that has now become shaded X, for instance, where my property is, it was an X, now it's a shaded X. Well, I still don't have to have flood insurance because I am in the preferred risk group of people. So anybody that's in shaded X, if you go, your mortgage company, your lender will not insist that you get flood insurance because they don't consider X or shaded X to be actually in a flood zone. So we are on the preferred. So none of those people that are paying extra money to build up are gonna get any breaks on their insurance because they're already as preferred as they can get. We're probably gonna end up 8 or better, as much as 5. There's only a couple of municipalities in the whole state of Florida that have higher than a 5. One is Palm Beach, City of Palm Beach something, and the other is Ocala. And Ocala, as everybody knows, is in the center of the state. So for us to expect to get a rating any better than 5, it's a fairy tale dream anyhow. And being the fact that we're on the coast, you know, we may be at an 8, a 7, 6, who knows? But we don't really know how many points we've gotten because we're not in the program yet. But we're not gonna lose the program. It's not like if we rescind this, we're gonna lose the program, because we're not. We have gone above with the freeboard, and then we added 6 inches to the freeboard. So everything you do, you get points on. This whole study that was done, this Mexico Beach Vulnerability Assessment in Coastal Areas and the Resilience Redevelopment Plan, all of these things add to your point total. So we've done everything that the state dictated that we had to do by the law that they passed. Everything has been done. The only thing that if we have to put something back that FEMA is still sitting on, I am a taxpayer like everybody else sitting here. If we're saving our federal government money and we have to redesign something down so that they're not spending as much money, I don't see that as a bad thing. And I don't see that the ramp, we're using the ramp, I don't see that if we slow that down, that's gonna hurt anybody. Now, I would like to know what the police and the moving all that stuff means, but I can't imagine that that's not something that we can either negotiate out or change. The reason we moved all that stuff over was because it was too expensive to build up. You know, there's all kinds of stuff that this is gonna help. The gas station, you know, we had a big issue with the gas station. The gas station had to build all their stuff up, and it was a real issue for them to build up because, you know, they got no room to do it, plus they had to put all their electrical, their pumps, all of this stuff. That would come back down to where it was. We've already given two variances. We gave one to the Shell Shack and we gave one to El Governor. So what we've done is we've already violated CRS kind of guidelines, if you want to go that way, and it's opened the door for anybody that comes up and says, I don't want to build to that, to say, I'm requesting a variance. And how are you going to deny them a variance if you've given to other people? So there's too many reasons not to rescind this thing. because it's costing, and it's not just costing a few $1,000s, people, it's literally can be in the millions of dollars that people are gonna have to pay extra, to build up. I know of 3 or 4 people, one had to spend an extra 20, one 30, one 50, and one told me that's actually on the planning and zoning board, said it cost him a lot more than that. So there's a ton of people that have paid, not to even mention, there's all sorts of other stuff. People that are on the canal over there that have already built up to the 15-year level, they got no place to put a bathroom on the bottom. They gotta move all their electrical outlets. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's costing those people even additional money. They can't even put a bathroom on the ground floor so that their kids or grandkids or whoever can use the bathroom instead of having to run upstairs. You know, there's just, the list goes on and on and on. Now, here's my statement about the reason it was done to begin with. I understand the emotional stress that everybody had, looking at all the houses across the road torn up, everything flooded, everything destroyed. I can understand why they did that, and I'm not ill at any of those people for making that decision. But we're 2 years removed down the road, where now we can see what it's costing and what it really means to have made that decision. And that decision doesn't make us lose anything except our residents' money. And to me, there is no reason not to rescind this, in my opinion. So if anybody has questions, I forgot your first name.
Christina.
Christina is Jason Adams' wife, and I know they were, a lot of the documents that I have, or some of the documents I got from them because they're websites, and he was kind enough to give me those so that I saved me from having to run off a bunch of copies from the websites. And I know that Jason and Christina talked about this early on and were not in favor of it, and as it turns out, they were correct, in my opinion. So, do you have anything you'd like to add, Christine?
No, just Jason couldn't be here. He attended all the meetings before this was passed and was against it. We just built Ocean Breeze Cottages, the 8 units on 42nd Street. We had those plans approved by the council and everybody, you know, a month before the hurricane, had our loan, hurricane hit. We all of a sudden had to raise our, you know, places up, cost us probably over $100,000. We were constantly told, well, you're gonna save on your flood insurance. You're gonna save here, you're gonna save on your flood insurance. That was not true. We didn't save anything. We're in a shaded X flood zone. So, you know, I think it's putting a lot of extra burden on people for those extra costs to build up, and they're not saving anything in the end. And, you know, the city might have to look at some of their projects, but it sounds like it might save the city money or FEMA, whoever's paying for it in the end, to not have to build up.
Because we gotta match funds.
Yeah, so I just, you know, I don't know how that's a bad thing, and I don't see that it's saving any homeowners any insurance cost in the end.
Thanks. I talked to Don Spillers. Don Spillers has built some of the, he's right next to Blue Water over on Miramar. There's 3 townhomes that they just redid that were on the original level. They got to redo those because of their damage was not as above 50%. The ones that they put right next door, they put those up on pilings. He said, we're having additional expenses, not just the expense of going up to the 15-foot mark, but we're having additional because we're having problems running the trunk lines, the air conditioners, all kinds of things that are costing them a ton of extra money, and it's really, really tough on them to try and work out how they're gonna do it. Now, I know I've spoke with Gina about this 2 or 3 times, just to get kind of some information about, you know, what kind of stuff they're doing. You know, I was a builder for a long time, and I can tell you, I don't know which builders that they talked to originally that said it was not gonna be that big a difference between building on a slab and building on a stem wall. But I can tell you that building on a stem wall is a lot more expensive. Not to mention the fact that, you know, Gene's, Gene Klein's house is about 5 or 6 feet out of the ground. They gotta walk upstairs to get up to it. That was a stem wall, cost them $20,000 extra to do it. Now, there's a lot of people around here that can't even consider rebuilding because they had a hard time taking their groceries in, walking up a couple steps. Or just getting out of the car and walking in on a slab grade. They're not gonna be able to build up and walk 5 or 6 flights of stairs up to their buildings. They can't afford to build it up on pylons and put an elevator in. I've been here for 12 years roughly. There are houses everywhere in slabs that people can't build on yet because they can't afford it. Now, with all that said, we're not saying that if Ms. Call here wants to build hers up to the 500-year floodplain or the 1,000-year floodplain, who cares? She can build it up as high as she wants to, and she could pay the money to do that. But she would have a choice to do that, and she wouldn't have to do that. All of these homes back here, these homes, I mean, there's slabs that were there, and now they don't know what they're gonna do, and a lot of these people are on fixed income. This is just so wrong. It's wrong now that we continue it, regardless of the reason that we started it, and I really wanna see this rescinded. Even though it could be a slowdown for FEMA on a project or two, I think that that's well worth saving our citizens money, because this is government overreach at its finest, and I'm not in favor of keeping it, so. If anybody's got any questions, I'll try to answer it based on what I found.
Could I just for a second, for the rest of the conversation, just to frame the big picture? We're not changing something today. This is a multi-step process to change the rules. The purpose of today is to get the council's feelings about whether they want to start pursuing that kind of change. The steps would be, we need to coordinate with the state. We need to have a planning and zoning board review because it's in the land development code, and we'd adopt an ordinance. So this would take a couple months easily, but we want to know just kind of the sense of the council for today, to see what kind of support there is. And the other issue to consider, we don't have exact information on this. It's difficult to get precise answers from FEMA on these types of questions, but if we're only talking about a project won't be funded and we have to design it down or adjust it, that's a risk. But the bigger risk, if this occurred, would be an instance when FEMA actually would say, we would like our money back for something you've done already. I don't know that we'll get an answer on that either, but that's a consideration to keep in mind. That's the worst case scenario of something that could happen. And that would be more likely on the design aspects, not the construction aspects. But for example, if we had a completed design that cost a lot of money, and then the rules changed so that design was no longer required under our own local code, we might actually see a request to refund that money, and that would be very difficult to manage financially.
Which the only ones that we've got underway right now, under design right now, are the boat ramp.
Mario, can you speak to that? I don't really know the projects, where they are in the process.
The project that we have that is fully designed and fully permitted and fully ready to build is the boat ramp and the marina. So those are 100% complete. We are, we're built on all of the lift stations and all the electrical panels and all those things. And again, if they went after us on all the elevated electrical panels, that would be a problem because that's built and done. And we have not yet been paid on it, so it's there. And again, it would be a stretch in my mind if they went after us for that, but it's not saying that it couldn't happen.
Mario,
Those are the main two projects that I have at this point that I know of that we've built, and then, I don't know that we elevated anything to we did not elevate anything to any additional height within the water treatment plant because it was
Mario,
a building with less than 50% density.
can he hear me? Mario, we have applied for city's had. Every project has had mitigation based on elevation. Can you hear me? Okay, all right, well, that's what we're talking about here. So that's, it's impossible to sit at this meeting and pick out the $300 million worth of projects that not only have we been paid for, but we're in the queue for, without looking at them in detail on the mitigation. Because we have made a big deal out of that with FEMA about making sure that we are mitigating, we're raising our standards, and therefore we've applied for substantial mitigation funds.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, Mario, on the mitigation really doesn't have anything to do with the 500-year floodplain, does it? Because, I mean, the stuff is cleaned up, the canal is cleaned up. How does the 500-year floodplain play into mitigation? Because we had this conversation with Dina the other day, and she said, and so did Nick, said, mitigation is mitigation. Salt Creek, that was funded because it got out of Salt Creek's banks. It had nothing to do with a 500-year floodplain as to what needed cleaned up. And it didn't have anything to do with the 500-year floodplain to clean the canal up, to clean all the debris out.
The canal does, but the mitigation for the electrical panels for the Salt Creek Bridge was all based on, mitigation is where we are doing more than what we had to show that FEMA won't have to pay for it again. We get money to do that.
That is correct.
Okay.
The cleanup projects are not mitigation. All the cleanup projects are exactly that, they're cleanup. Anything that we built back, when we built back the bridge at Salt Creek, when we built back, the other bridges, that we're going after on 15th Street, the one on, I think at 32nd, all the electrical panels that we've, elevated, and again, keep in mind, I don't know how many lift stations we have, but we've got probably 40 or 50 lift stations. That's something that somebody can probably correct me on, but that is one of the ones that if all of a sudden they do retroactively go back after, that's
Well,
a major issue.
Well, that's why I was asking for this stuff a long time ago, because, we could have had some of these answers. We gotta get some answers. Just because, we don't know what the mitigation issues are, let's find out what the mitigation issues are, because you know what? There may not be any mitigation issues. Because let me tell you, Salt Creek, I would be hard pressed to say that FEMA's gonna have an issue with the design and the build of that bridge, because evidently it was not built correctly to start with, or it wouldn't have washed out. So,
It wasn't even a bridge.
it was a pipe. It's not any different than what we still got a pipe under it, we just poured concrete over it. So, I mean, it's essentially just bigger. And how could FEMA have a problem? What FEMA should know is that next time, if we do have this same kind of storm, that all of those sewer heads, all of those, everything that you guys are talking about is gonna be higher and better. And so if we drop the rest of the stuff down, they can save money on whatever else they gotta do to give us money to pay, plus we save money, plus, and they know that they've got sort of like that insurance policy that we thought every one of us thought we were gonna get. Now they have an insurance policy, so to speak, of things being built better. And all of the stuff that's been built so far is basic service type stuff, sewer, bridges, roadways, those kinds of things. So I can't imagine that they're gonna have a problem. But let's find out, and let's don't do this and drag this thing out for another 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Let's call them up and say, look, we got some issues here. Our residents are paying a ton of money, and you guys are fixing to pay a ton of money, and we found a way that we're gonna save you guys and us money. So let's sit down and talk about it. Let's get it done. And it's like I said, Mario, this is why I've asked you about this for a long time, and nothing's been done on it. And I'm not happy about having to drag it out for another 2 or 3 months because somebody's not asking the right questions. And I don't care if they're tough to get in touch with or not. Let's get in touch with them. Let's get it done.
We have yet to get funding for
And we have yet to be told that they're gonna have a problem with that if we drop the 500-year floodplain, right?
That is correct.
Then let's ask them, let's get it done, so we can make a rational decision
I
here.
can tell you why it's not done. I'll be honest with you. We don't wanna raise that question when we've got over $4 million sitting out there, and that's gonna put us in jeopardy.
Look,
with
Al,
this. So
look.
that's why I didn't ask them, because I thought that,
Well, I
I didn't
think it's-
know, but I'm just telling you.
I think it's time
You're
you ask
sitting-
them.
You're sitting here making it sound like that you just, here's our questions, thank you, and they will give us answers.
Well,
You don't,
no.
you don't get that.
And you're
from me.
saying, but listen, you're saying that it's $4 million. Have you done the math and see how much all these people are gonna pay for building up to that 500-year floodplain?
I
you
ain't
could
had
be-
one complaint.
You could,
I ain't had a complaint. Well, let me tell you, I'm right there at my little
We
business,
complained.
and I get all.
did anybody here complain
Well,
about having to pay?
Jason complained at all the meetings.
Jason, listen, anybody
I
that's,
understand that.
listen, $4 million to FEMA and they got a problem with that? And you've got a problem with asking because we got $4 million worth of stuff?
Yeah, when
Yes,
you-
I understand that.
When you go through the rigmarole in the documentation and the methodology and all that it takes to get them to obligate that money, yes, I have
I
a
don't
problem.
think it had anything to do with
They
500-year
meet
floodplain.
on every other Wednesday. You are entitled to be there, sir.
You guys had a meeting here not long ago, and I wasn't called. And Mario knew good and well I wanted to talk to the FEMA people. And I found out 2 days after they were gone that there was a meeting here. And I
Let's
wasn't
try
called
to
about
get
that.
it back on,
But what I'm saying is, look, I don't want you to make light of this $4 million, and you do the math out there, and you find out how many people are paying extra money. It could be as much as $20 million
Okay.
out that these people are having to pay, and they're not gonna get any insurance break. And
Well, what about
not to even mention the fact that most of those people over there didn't get flood. Most of the damage over there was wind damage and trees blowing down on the houses and tearing everything out. And you know what? One thing we can thank Michael for is there ain't no more trees to fall on anybody else's house. So next storm, the damage is not gonna be near as bad. So I'm saying, we're spending a ton of money out there, the people are, and it's real easy for us to sit here as a council and say, well, I'm sorry you're paying all that money, but you know what, we don't wanna screw up with FEMA. Let's find out from FEMA, and let's tell FEMA what we're up against, and let's talk about it, and let's get something done. And don't have an excuse, well, we're scared of FEMA, because I'm not scared of FEMA. I wanna know what FEMA thinks, and I respect FEMA for what they're doing, and I appreciate their help, and I appreciate our federal government's help. But if you're saving your federal government money, then they should appreciate the fact that you now have learned from your mistake, and you're ready to move forward and save everybody money. So anyhow.
Dina's on the line, she has a few comments, if that'd be okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dina.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, just to answer the question about the mitigation and how that has anything to do with the 500 year. So I think what the mayor was trying to get at, and Mario as well, is we did incorporate mitigation into nearly all of our projects, including Salt Creek Bridge, with respect to the new code and the 500 year. So the question we need to get answered, I think, from FEMA is, to them, every project that gets obligated it's essentially a contract with the city. So what we need to find out is, if we repeal the ordinance and the code and standard that we were putting in front of FEMA to justify the mitigation for these projects like Salt Creek, which was designed and built to the 500-year flood event, does that in any way affect the contract that we entered into for the obligation of the funds? And that's the question that we need to have answered. Because mitigation is something that FEMA, they will pay for that and obligate funds for it on multiple different tools. There's codes and standards, then there's straight mitigation. But I think what we need to make sure is that the nuances of those
And there'll be a dollar amount there if they in fact insist on a dollar amount, is that right?
Yes, each project, you can break it out into a dollar amount.
Okay, and we should have all those dollar amounts going in, so we know what we spent as far as the extra, what would have been, do we know what the difference would have been using the 100-year floodplain that FEMA was gonna institute and did institute?
I believe on Salt Creek, it was roughly double, so it was an additional 100% of the project costs.
But,
I
but-
don't know the dollar amount off the top of my head, but I can work through all of our projects and
But-
try to break out that amount.
but you would be, then you would have to go in and figure out to what they had set up as the new 100-year floodplain, which was a foot above what the other one was, correct?
I don't, say that again, sorry.
So you've also got to figure in that mitigation would have been done on what they would have designated as a new floodplain, which they did designate as a new floodplain. We are the ones that put it at 500 years, so there's a difference there that needs to be calculated as well.
Yeah, FEMA designates the 500-year shaded X as floodplain. They consider that floodplain. The difference is whether mitigation kicks in above and beyond 100-year, the difference between building to 100-year versus 500-year. But to be clear, FEMA does consider shaded X part of the floodplain.
Well, nobody else does. No, your insurance company doesn't, and your mortgage company doesn't.
Yeah, they consider that the preferred
That's correct.
rate and don't
That's-
require flood insurance.
That's
Yes.
correct. So there's no money savings to those people at all. Okay, thank you, Dina. So where are we at?
I don't know. I don't know if you're through or not. Last time I thought you were through, I got chastised. I'm not gonna say anything if you're through.
Are you gonna bring that up every time we have a disagreement?
I am until I know that you're through. And I didn't know if you were through or not.
I don't consider it humorous that you bring that up every time. It's not humorous to me. I just, look, you're the mayor, I respect you as the mayor.
Daryl,
But,
that's
but,
not
but,
necessary.
no, don't, see,
You got the
you're
floor.
cutting me, you're cutting me off again, Al, don't cut me off. When I'm talking to you.
I believe me, I hadn't cut you off.
All right, so
All right,
anyhow,
let's move on. Who else?
Well, we ain't moving on.
No, who else has got something to say?
You got, anybody always got some, I got some, mine's short and sweet.
I have a question.
Uh-oh, go ahead, man.
Mr. Al, correct me if I'm wrong. There's a couple of them that were on council, but I was at the meeting that this was brought up after the hurricane. Mr. Al was not in favor of this in the beginning.
that's correct.
So, I mean, this wasn't his choice. I mean, everybody, all we did was what we could do at the time. I mean, I don't think you jump on him, but my question is, 2 years later, what do you say to all the people that sold because they couldn't afford to build back? What do you say to those people? Sorry for your luck, because there's a whole lot of people that just sold because they couldn't build back.
Well, what you say to the people who have already built up, I mean, that's like us. I mean, I hate it that we've already built up, but I think there's a chance to help the people who haven't and can now afford to build. So, I mean, it's been done, but I think it's a great opportunity to go back and revisit it.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I actually just come out, and before it come out one time before, so a lot of people in the neighborhood, I got out visiting builders, and I've been chastised this week for people having to build up, you know, what I mean, here y'all at the city, cost me this much money, and I heard it from everybody that built, and some of them, and then when you get through talking to them people that chastise you for not doing this before, when you ask them whether I have a poll, are you for changing the 500-year floodplain and going back to 100 years? Yes, I want you to change it, but I wish you to change it before, so there's gonna be hard feelings if we do it, but, this is my opinion, I've asked around about how many permits we done issued, and how many more houses that we can build, and it's a no-brainer. We can help these people that's gonna build, and the FEMA situation, to me, is, somebody's got to explain to me a little bit better. I think Daryl's trying to get some answers, and I think now we just need to get some answers. And my recommendation is that we rescind mine, and I make a motion, whatever we got to do to change the 500-year floodplain back to the 100-year, back to where it was. Because the majority of the people I've talked to want it put back. And Nick was saying that we need to do this and do that and go before, and I know there's rules and regulations, but we are the city council.
You can do it. It just
That's
takes a
what
few
I'm saying.
steps.
I don't like you saying this, we are the city council. Why should we go back to the P and Z board? Hell, we tell them what to do. They go before them, and it comes before us. Let's don't back up. And I think the quicker we get this moved forward, the quicker we're gonna get these answers, Darryl. And everybody here, I think this, and I showed him up in a while, but I was sitting right here with him. I didn't have anything to vote no, but I did. I think I did, I don't really know why. But I think it's time that we have, let's go forward. Let's help the people in this community. Whatever we have to do it, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm for making the motion and passing it and getting this started as quick as possible.
I would like to clarify, I'm not jumping on Al for what he did back when it was done. The only thing that made me upset was him comparing the $4 million that we're talking about with mitigation right now, and the reason he didn't wanna ask them any questions about that was because of the $4 million of mitigation that we've done. That's what I was upset with him saying, if you're considering $4 million for FEMA, and all these other people are paying way more millions than that by the time everybody gets through bidding or building. That's what I've said before, I'm not, and I don't have any animosity toward anybody that made that decision, because I was here. I know why they made the decision. They were emotional and they were trying to fix the city. So that's clear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just to put it, as a resident, I'm building a home currently.
Your name, please, for the
Michael
record.
Guy. My name is Michael Guy. I'm building a home currently. My footers were poured last week. They are standing by on getting supplies delivered to do my stem wall, so this directly affects me. I applaud each of you that are for this change, because I can put an exact dollar figure for what you're discussing on an 1,800 square foot heated and cooled home, single family for 2 adults, 3 kids. It is $19,000 just on stem wall. That's not counting siding, that's not counting masonry work for steps, that is just concrete work. So I support each one of you that are attempting to pass that, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Sharon, you have any comments?
Regardless of what we decide on, somebody's feelings are gonna get hurt. That's just the way it is. Doesn't matter what you do, people are gonna, have hurt feelings about it. I believe if we can help the people in this community to be able to build back, then I think that's what we should do. If they can afford to, if we change it, they'll be able to build their house back. I believe that's the right thing to do. And if it comes down to the money, well, if it does, it does, but it's gonna save the people in the city money to be able to build back. There's gonna be hurt feelings no matter what. But I agree that maybe it'd be a good idea to find out, get some answers from FEMA about exactly what would happen if we changed it back. The details of what exactly would happen. because we don't know that right now, for a fact. That's my feelings. If we can change it and not be, jeopardized too badly, then I think we really need to look into it, for everybody.
Bobby, you got anything?
Got a question, you Nick. Back in February 2019, when this was changed, this was an ordinance 712 and this was an amendment. Did we have to go through all this with the, planning and zoning and all, to just amend this ordinance?
We did, and in fact, because we rushed it so much and didn't do the full state review, we had to do ordinance 719 about 4 months later to do some cleanup that the state required.
Okay, I didn't know about 719,
They're very similar, but the state required some small changes because they didn't get a full opportunity to participate on the first ordinance. Those steps are manageable. We can work through those. They just add some time. It means you can't change this in a few weeks. It takes a few months.
Bobby, it became part of the land development regulation.
That's correct.
That's what the time, when you make it part of that, then the state has, here's the process.
Okay, so we change back, we got still have to go back to the state.
Well, the reason why we would have, and this isn't a big addition of time, the reason it would go to the planning and zoning board to consider is because it's in the land development code. It's several pages in the land development code that we will be changing. That's just required our own local rules. That's what our land development code says. The proposed changes are reviewed by them. The bigger issue that would take a little more time that we have less control over is that any changes to floodplain ordinances, regardless of whether they're in our land development code or a standalone ordinance, they need to be coordinated and reviewed by the state, and they're gonna require that. And these changes, I don't think, will be a lot of words that change, so it shouldn't be a difficult review, but we need to go through that. We can't control their schedule.
You just take out this section D here, and that pretty well take care of it. And 1612.4.2. Okay.
Nick, how do we do that? Thank you, that was, how would the council go about if we decided, how would we go about changing this?
Well, the city, probably meaning Mario, myself, and Dina, would make the changes that would do what you're suggesting on a draft of our rules, and we send them to the state. The floodplain management team, Daryl and I spoke to them last week.
They didn't have any problem with what we were talking about doing.
And they would designate somebody to review it. Their main concern is to make sure we stay in compliance with their floodplain program. They shouldn't take us out of compliance unless we worded something incorrectly. It's just one step in the process. We would send them what we're considering adopting ahead of time.
But we'd have to make a motion and pass it on, and at least get that's my comment I'm asking. I mean, how do I do that?
Well, we wouldn't need to make any formal motions and pass things until we're to the step of adopting the ordinance, and we're not there yet. But if 3 or 4 of you are just confident you want to pursue this,
That's what I'm saying. We sort of need to know how many wants to do this.
Right.
That way you'll know, but I don't wanna be out of government, you know. I want this to go forward, in my opinion now. I know how let's wait, and we're gonna talk about it with Dana, the best way is, if they got any, and FEMA's they're getting, these answers there wants, they'll come to us.
That everyone involved will continue to ask the same questions.
I understand, but I wanna know how we can pursue forward today.
Well, I was trying to count, I think there's 3 or maybe 4 that would like to proceed.
Yeah.
I would like to proceed.
Okay, I got another question to throw in on this, going back to the 100 year, going back to the CDC building. Sunset said we would have to go back and get redesign on the place. We're talking about CDC. Has anybody got an idea, Jim, what the difference in the price would be to go with the CDC with the 100-year plan against the 500, or is that in the coastline, it don't matter?
You're talking about Kimberly's building over there?
Right.
It's in the shaded X, so it's not seaward of the Coastal Construction Control Line,
So it won't matter.
but I don't know what the cost difference would be now.
Okay, the, Sunset,
Sunset likely would not change because it is seaward of the TCCL. So it likely would not change.
thank you.
I think that leaves me. Couple things I need to say. I did not support this initially, and I studied on it, and I read, and I talked to people. And I'm the only one here that was here then, so bear with me just a second. I wasn't for it because I saw some of what I've heard today that it wasn't necessary. And I fully understood when I voted for that I knew FEMA didn't recognize anything over the 100-year floodplain. I knew that. But some things that I didn't know, and I've learned even since then, that some of what many of you are talking about today is a snapshot in time, and it's real. This guy's $18,000 that he just mentioned to us, that's real to him. And Christina and Jason's money that they spent, that to say there's no return or that we're gonna help people, I don't think you're gonna know the value of this for maybe 10 years. And the reason I say that, when you harden your city, it makes a significant difference moving forward in rebuilding, of saying we have standards that will help you. Most of what's said today is we hear that we hurt you. We hurt you financially. But if you could move the clock forward, which we can't do, but I think there's a lot of merit in saying, Mexico Beach, we have hardened our city for your protection. Now, you can choose to look at it that we hurt you. I don't disagree. And I can't really argue that point with you. I mean, if you want to just look at today, it cost me $18,000. But in the resale of that house, when you look at the value that you add to this city to harden it from what Michael, which all of you here today saw what Michael did, you can't just say, well, it just happened once every 500 years, or it didn't, or you just tend to want to forget it. Well, I didn't do that when I voted. It was real to me what happened and can happen again. And if you think or choose to think, this Lord is going to help, this guy's going to save 18, Christina's going to save 100, Frank's going to save 50 or whatever. If you do that, you can find justification for saying we shouldn't have done it. It doesn't make any difference. Well, I'm one of those that think that in the long run, that everybody in this room is better off with that. I didn't initially, but when I looked into it and I thought about what had happened, I am fully convinced that this floodplain ordinance has merit over what, I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan is having to do today. I think that down the road, it will. A couple other things, just, Darrell mentioned that we've given 2 variances, and therefore we've already diluted that. The Shell Shack got what they asked for before this was ever adopted. The motel wasn't a new build, it was a rebuild. There has been no variance, nor to my knowledge, a request for someone that is seeking to build brand new since this has been passed. I'm not aware of a one since this was passed. So, in the motel's case, that building was standing. We all spoke for it. We all agreed that that made the most sense because the building was standing. I don't think that diluted anything. I think it was just good common sense by all of us. And the last thing is, and this probably comes from that no one else in this room can relate to, only because you haven't sat where I've sat for 2 years dealing with FEMA. When I said what I said to Darrell about I didn't ask for 2 reasons. One, the city council had not given any direction as a council to question what this ordinance is on the books. Be no different than any other ordinance on the books. Just because one person asked for it, I didn't feel like that it was proper until we as a group said this is what we want to do. So I want to clarify, that's why I said what I said about not asking. Second of all, the city, the potential jeopardy of this city, and I'm not saying we haven't tried to get into the detail that some of us have asked for here, but I caution us as a government on the jeopardy that we place the finances of this city in by trying to lay it on an answer from FEMA. I just don't think you're gonna get something, and I don't think you're gonna get something that we can, I'm not willing to roll that dice. Because I think what we have, and y'all laughed at me, but I used to think I was the most informed person. I'm not anymore, but I've had not one. Outside of Jason Adams, when he was attending every meeting and voicing his opinion about, and trying to state his case about this flood order. I've not had a builder, I've not had a homeowner that has come to me and said, and obviously, that's not saying y'all hadn't, I'm just saying I haven't. And maybe that just sort of humbles me to my pecking order in this town, I don't know, but I just know I haven't had it. But, so, I caution us about what we say and who we're helping. I think we need to fast forward, our vision should be outside of tomorrow. I'm not for doing that. So, all we have to do, not a vote, I think it's obvious, the consensus is to move forward, I guess we would say at Mach speed, and so we can, I think we can submit to Mario. Can you hear? It is safe to assume that, Bobby, I'm not sure, but I know these 3 have indicated that, whether or not you're in or out, it doesn't, I think it's obvious that we want to pursue and get as many questions answered from FEMA, I guess. Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, then, I guess that would be our, I don't want to put words in those that want to move forward, but is that what we're waiting on? Am I making a correct statement there?
Well, I'm personally, I'm riding this fence. I say good on both sides. I understand both sides. I'd like to see some more answers. I'd like to know more about what it's gonna jeopardize, not only the city, but the citizens that are building now. If FEMA comes in, they come in and say, okay, we're gonna change our floodplain. What it's gonna cost. So, if y'all want to go ahead and start pursuing it, and Mario, you try to find out some more answers for us. Right now, I'm sitting right here saying, tell me more. I got, like Darryl, I got stuff I've been getting all together. I still don't know for sure. But citizens is the main concern, and of course our city. I don't wanna jeopardize anything on either the citizens, main, or whatever. I would hate, even though it's a 500-year plan or whatever, I would hate for something to happen again, and we all be tore down again. So, that's what I said.
All right, just sort of wrap it up, Mario, are you comfortable you have a direction or can get a direction in terms of getting the information back that you've heard discussed today?
Yes, sir. Basically what I'll do is I'll reach back to FEMA and find out, what risk we have on the projects that we have underway. And that would include MX1, that would include all the lift stations, the Salt Creek Bridge, on those projects that are pretty much built. And then find out what effect it has on the police station, fire station, and then also find out, if it has repercussions on again, you know, the marina, and I think that's it. So I'll reach
Is that
back to
good?
them on those and report back as quickly as I can.
All I'm gonna know is, I'm gonna pursue it ahead, that's what I wanna do, just talking and getting all these figures. I believe if we would go ahead, in my opinion, and do what we got to do and change this level right here, and get it started, then you're gonna get some answers from FEMA. Us going to FEMA and trying to ask them questions, with all of them said, it don't work.
Well, we'll make the changes quickly as far as what we're intending, and that would be, we can certainly share that with you, that'll be part of the package of what
The
we're
land development code and
requesting
start
feedback.
that process independent of this exercise.
We're gonna start the process, that's what you just said?
Well, we can put the ordinance together for that process to start, yes, sir. I mean, not the ordinance, but, the modifications to the land development code. We can do both at the same time.
Jerry, with due respect, surely you wouldn't wanna move and do it and then find out that, yeah, you wouldn't wanna do that, would you? Or none of us would wanna, I mean, we wanna know the repercussions of this change before we do it.
I can see your point, I really can, I mean, but it looks like to me that Darryl, the way, to hear him talk, and the way I've heard you talk before, sometimes you don't get an answer from FEMA. So, in my opinion now, this way I think about it, sometimes when you start this journey, somewhere along that first stop, someone will say, oh, you can't do this, and that's what I want them to tell. I don't want us to sit here and let Mario and Nick and Dina and anybody else got to do it. I don't wanna just, well, we gotta meet next week. I don't wanna do that. I'm gonna give them sufficient time, but I
How we
think
gonna
we can
do, how we gonna do that? I guess I wanna make sure that if y'all don't, what information do we want from FEMA? Or do you wanna forget FEMA and go ahead and move forward? I'm confused. Help me understand.
That's what I want.
Forget FEMA.
Let's go with the 100. That's me.
Well, let me just say this.
Say it.
That, to me, is irresponsible.
On your point.
Well, you got over $200 million sitting out there that somebody, after 2 years of trying to get this money obligated, yes, that's irresponsible as a government to ignore the amount of money that could be at play here if we don't try to find out. That's all I'm saying.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So with the FEMA money and all that we're talking about, haven't kept up with all the city projects. So you're concerned that the projects that are complete, that you're not gonna get money back from FEMA?
Absolutely.
So they've been permitted, approved by
Absolutely.
FEMA, already approved, already built. You're
They
waiting
haven't
to be
cleared the final
reimbursed, so
amount. They
you
haven't
think they
cleared the
could
final
go
amount.
back and say, oh,
Absolutely.
well, I mean, that's like the city giving you a permit and then coming back and saying, no, we're taking that permit back and,
That's
you
right.
know.
That's right. But
I
remember
mean,
that,
I think
Christina,
some of
they
it's
haven't been
scare
final
tactics.
audits, that FEMA has not completed what they call their final audits. I mean, they have, I mean, that
But you
happens.
built it based, you got the permit approved, you built it based on the ordinance at that time and it was all approved. So, I mean, I know FEMA does crazy things and
That's
you
right.
don't know what they're gonna do, but I just kinda feel like some of this is scare tactics, like we're not gonna get our money. But you built it, you know, they approved it, you built it, you had the permit based on the ordinance at that time, so it shouldn't be, you wouldn't think that they would say, no, we're not gonna reimburse
I
you.
totally agree with you.
There are examples, and there are situations where it's not as much of just an honest, straightforward policy change you're making, but there are examples where FEMA's come along 3, 4, 5 years later and said this was incorrect. We
That's
need
right.
our millions of dollars back. That has happened. So while I'm not saying that would happen, the idea that, oh, we've been paid, we're totally not going to be bothered by FEMA, that isn't necessarily correct.
Okay.
I have one other thing I'd like to say. I would like to be involved when we discuss this with FEMA. I don't know if anybody else does or if that's possible, but I wanna make sure that I get the points across that my constituents have given to me. And I'm just absolutely appalled to think that even if we did lose some money from FEMA, now, and I know that everything has reason, depending on the amount and depending on the circumstance. I know as a builder, and I know from what people are paying, how much money those people are gonna pay. And if we change it and save those citizens money, there is a level that to me is tolerable that we would have to pay extra for to save those people. You can't just say, if we lose any money at all. Now, and I agree, we need to stay viable. We gotta make sure that our city can pay its bills, and we gotta make sure that we don't go out of, we don't lose our charter and go bankrupt. I understand all those things. But is it possible, Mario, is it possible for me to be able to go into these meetings so I can at least tell them my point of view on this thing?
Most certainly.
Absolutely, okay.
So what I understand from today, to recap, we're gonna move forward with these changes. We're talking about changing the 500-year flood level to the 100, not changing anything else.
The freeboard stays the same, we added 6 inches to the freeboard.
Where did you get that from? Help me with that.
From Dina and Gina. The state requirement is an extra foot of freeboard,
The Florida Building Code requires a foot of freeboard over the 100-year floodplain.
and we added 6 inches to that. So we get more points.
Well, we
get
just,
more-
okay, we adopted it as an
That's-
18-inch freeboard.
Correct.
Over
Foot and a
five.
half freeboard.
Over five.
That's right. It didn't get broken down in the ordinance. A foot's by the state, 6 by the city. It was a,
No, 'cause
that's
it's
what
two
had me
separate,
confused.
yeah, just,
I got you. I'm on, I got
if you
you.
have no ordinance, no floodplain ordinance, you have to build to 100-year plus.
That's right. Okay, I'm with you.
And there was some comments about, don't worry about FEMA. We're gonna continue to talk to FEMA, get more information on this, but we're not going to allow that to slow down our process going forward on the mandatory steps to make these amendments. Is that fair?
I think we should, I mean, there's no reason why we can't get that prepared. Unless FEMA comes back and says it's gonna cost you $20 million. Or something like that. Why can't we, rather than wait to talk to FEMA and it takes 2 months to get to sit down with somebody and then start the process, it's gonna take us 2 more months. And instead of him being able to wait a little bit longer, possibly, and save $19,000, because he's got the footing for it, he ain't done the stem wall yet. It may be that he wants to consider, well, you know, I'll slow this process down for 3 or 4 months just to see if I can save $20,000.
That's not what I meant to say. I was
But
trying to
what-
explain that we would proceed without that guidance yet, but continue to ask for it from FEMA as we're proceeding with the other steps.
Yes.
Okay, Laura, please be reminded, not that you don't, but either, as far as Daryl, that eliminates me from being in that call, and it makes sure that we don't get into a sunshine law by having too many people, can't have one of us in there.
I was
Yes,
gonna
sir,
make
I
a question.
understand.
Okay, just, all right, can we move forward with next? We good? All right, thank you, everybody. Nick, you have anything? Oh, yes, sir.
What is the, I'm Paul Kerr, Moultrie, Georgia. I'm interested in this greatly, but at this point, what is gonna be the time frame before I can apply for a building permit and not have to, assuming it goes through? What's the time frame for this to take effect? That would be the question.
It's a very tentative answer because we don't have control over the state's timing on their review, but I would think we could have the changes drafted and have it to the state and have their review. It should be within a month, hopefully more like 2 weeks, but I can't really speak for the state. And then our process is going to be 3 meetings total, 1 planning and zoning, 2 city council meetings. You lived through that schedule before. The fastest that might be is about 5 weeks. It's usually more like 6 or 7 weeks.
Could we call special meetings?
You could.
No, there's no newspaper stuff that's gotta be, other than the planning and zoning.
You'll have the newspaper advertisement on your second reading. It has to be 10 days before your meeting.
But we could actually call special meetings. We could have a meeting once a week.
You could. Well, the way to compact the schedule somewhat is to have your first reading of the ordinance and your planning and zoning board meeting around the same time. And frequently, you'll have a more gap of a time, you'll put a few weeks in between, but usually you'll have a planning and zoning board meeting a few days before you'll have your regularly scheduled, city council meeting. So you could conceivably get all those meetings in a month without having to schedule anything special. You have to look at exact calendar, but it may work.
Now, I'm a little slow on the uptake, so put that in a number. We talking 30 days, 45, 60, 75, 90? I just, you know, and I know this is a swag,
I would say at least 2 months,
60 days,
at least.
before it's complete, provided you don't get me made from that.
At least 2 months, and don't be surprised if it's more like 3.5.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
How much money do you stand to save if you don't have to do it?
Daryl, it's about $60,000.
That's-
Now, that is a small number when I look at the big picture. When you take a house, and I've been in the real estate business a long time, but if you've got 2 comparable houses, and you've got one that's 8, 9 feet off the ground, and you've got one that's 2 or 3 feet off the ground, when you go to market that house, you have a bigger market for the one that's closer to the ground because the old folks can get in.
Right, okay,
As I get older, I have harder time climbing steps.
sure.
So when I look at the resale of my house, the one that's lowest to the ground, you know, pretty much the same house, pretty much same location, you know, that side. The one that's closer to the ground, in my opinion,
is gonna bring more money. Cause you got a bigger market, you got a smaller market here. But as I look at the beach, and it's been here since the 80s, to move forward, if this goes through, I think you would see a bigger surge in building. There's a lot of people sitting on the fence, wanting to build, waiting to build. And it's, the cost is cost, but it's the future of having that house lower to the ground. It's what's really, really important to a lot of people. And, you know, I had to spend the money to build up, that's okay. I mean, things happen, it's just the way it is. But by doing it, it will allow us to have a bathroom downstairs. Because the youngers will go to the bathroom, and they ain't going up them steps, so they gonna go behind the tree. It's just, that's fact of life, we all got children. And it's the convenience of the bathroom, the rod storage, place to park your, you know, to put things would just make it a lot more convenient and would add a lot of value. And, you know, the name of the game is to get the beach built, to get the town built back.
Agreed.
Cause that's gonna create your tax dollars. And without tax dollars, you sure ain't going nowhere. But, you know, there's a lot to it, more so than just the cost of the pipe.
Thank you.
All right, Nick, you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, the financial report, the only thing we don't have a meeting, but we do have, when is our public hearing on the budget?
17th,
16.
16th?
I don't know.
Yeah, 16th, whichever.
Marty, what,
It's a Thursday, hold on a second, let me look at my calendar.
16th or 17th?
It would be the 17th
Yes,
at 6 p.m.
7th? And here, and right here in this building?
yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything to add to the financial report?
No, sir, we have that meeting on the 17th, and then on the 22nd, we'll actually adopt our budget. So those are the two items that we have budget-wise.
22nd at 6 p.m. also, right?
The 22nd, no, sir, is our normal council meeting at 9 a.m.
We'll do it after the council meeting, so it'll be at 11. Or,
Don't we have to have two?
Actually, no, ma'am, it's actually an ordinance where we adopt our land development, our budget, so it's part of the regularly scheduled meeting
okay,
on the 22nd. It's not a workshop, it's not a special meeting, it's part of the last meeting in September.
And I haven't reviewed this recently, but I know in general we have to do at least one of these meetings, we have to do it after 5 p.m.
yep.
So we'll probably have this final adoption meeting in the afternoon instead of the morning meeting.
The 22nd's not, it's also a public hearing.
Yeah, and I thought that the 17th date was the one that gave us that 6 p.m. meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is the 6 p.m. meeting and the 17th.
I understand, but doesn't it take two public hearings?
Then on the 22nd,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
You gotta
what-
have another public hearing.
it's going to be on the 22nd.
Oh, well, that's okay. Well,
Doing the beach.
because traditionally, it's been where you have two, you adopt it. I'll get with you later. I don't think that's right. But anyway, all right, 17th at 6 p.m. Sandy, you have anything?
Nothing good, sir.
I don't see anything from the police. Gary, you got any police reports?
Yes, I rode with them Saturday, and that beach was packed from one end to the other, and I was real, And we had a good turnout for our meeting on our last meeting. And they've done a real good job. I was proud of our sheriff department for coming and, asked me to ride with them. Anyway, we had a good turnout.
Good. Yeah, it looked like we had
Good turnout.
great, big, good. Didn't hear me, I heard no reports.
No.
Jeannie, you have anything for building?
Nothing
Just
substantial.
moving along?
Remodel permit for the church on, 15th Street, came in last week, so,
Oh, are they putting the Mormon church, the big church? on
the big church, remodel.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Somebody told me they were gonna sell it. Great.
Yeah.
That's good, okay. Kathy is not here, code. No report on code. Tommy, what you got? Has anybody got, before I just run through these, but if council got any questions, speak up. Tommy, go ahead.
Hey, Mayor, as always, I passed out the job completion list for the last couple of weeks. Last meeting, y'all directed me to get a hold of DOT about in front of Summer House where the road floods. I got a hold of DOT, they sent a truck out, a vacuum truck, and actually could not find that drain that we'd been hunting to get water off the road. I got one of my guys, Tim Coulter from the road department, meet us around there, and took Tim about 5 minutes. He put his foot right on the drain, about 2 foot under the dirt. So we got that uncovered, they got it vacuumed out, so I'm happy to say now, we got that took care of. The road shouldn't be underwater anymore when we have the heavy rains, so,
Good.
I just wanna thank Tim, having people on our staff with the knowledge of where these things are means a lot. So, other than that, Mayor, just our regular cutting grass, taking care of the city as usual. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Questions?
Well, man, up, see the pothole, we getting a bigger pothole on there, we need to put a marker there to keep people running into it.
Okay, I'll get the road department guys to go around and, we can go ahead and get that, actually get it took care of.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Josh?
Oh, actually, Josh is gonna pass the baton off to me on these meetings.
Okay.
But feel free to contact him for comments, questions, concerns.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, on the municipal complex, this is one of the ones we brought forth last time we brought up. We have handed that off to DAG, so they can start their preliminary site layout, just based on the needs of the police, fire, and building. On the marina project, nothing has changed since the last time. I believe this has just not been obligated yet. Sunset Park, again, another one of the concepts we brought last time we were here. We have turned that over to DAG too, so they can start working on their part of it as far as the ramps and stuff. Once we get that laid out, we'll get with Beaches and Shores, just make sure that we're not stepping on their toes, anything that we wanna do. The citywide streets, again, another one of the maps we brought up to you guys. We would like some feedback on how we're proposing to pull together all the FEMA funds and do repairs on certain roads before we move forward with those plans.
What's the deadline to have that done? If you're waiting on feedback, you need to say,
Understood.
Next meeting.
We like by the next meeting.
next meeting.
Paul.
Citywide sidewalks and parking, we have a set of plans in review in-house. I did have to make one correction, we had a call last week with FDOT maintenance regarding the 2 inlets in front of Shell Shack. There's that one on the south side that's caved in. They informed me last week that they brought some lime rock and filled it in, but I drove by there before the meeting, that has not been done. So I need to follow up with them to find out and that will be done. And then as far as the inlet on the north side, where the sidewalk, the branch bridge, we're working with them to try to get that resolved so we can remove that wooden sidewalk.
Good.
And their first indication was if we could just roll those improvements into the sidewalk project, they'd be willing to work with us as far as, permits and stuff. And that's a great day.
That'd be good, cause that's a hazard area. That wooden walk has had some bicycle accidents. We need to.
Okay.
If we can eliminate that, that'd be good.
Good, good. The stormwater, we're going through the reports that we got from GAC and DDD, and we're trying to determine additional items we can add to the FEMA list. The work process, hopefully we'll have something, end of this week wrapped up. Oleander is under construction. As far as the jetty project, we've got the survey work complete on the sand. Now we're just doing a CAD file of the survey, so it's in-house with Dewberry for that.
Whoa, before you leave jetty project, say that.
The east and west jetties, the proposal to
Okay.
be approved,
I missed, okay.
survey field work complete.
I want to back up one more, right, when you cut the road right there on Seventh, on Lowdown, I wish you, and I stopped and talked to the man twice, and every time I ask him how he does go fill in, Seventh Street is the most busy street in Mexico Beach, Seventh and Fifth, cut through beside 15th. And we just beat it down. If you see, maybe we tell him to get somebody to check it every 2 or 3 days, where we can, the line rock sitting right there beside the road, he just got to fill it in. I talked to Tommy, and Tommy helped me out one time, but it's a speed bump now. But, you know, if you see it, just ask him about it.
We've got an inspector out here this week, we'll put him on it, get him checked.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
The beach landscape, project, that there's no update from the last time, the last meeting. I believe there was a gentleman that was working on it, had a death in the family, so he's kind of slow progress. And then the canal dredging, we've completed the survey work on the pre-hurricane surface, and those were provided to AC Disaster last week. Yes, sir.
The very first thing, municipal complex, DAG to develop a preliminary site layout based on the conceptual plan. If we change things, how much money are we talking about for them to do this next step?
I don't know what DAG's contract is with the city. Their contracts are separated between Dewberry and DAG. So our portion was to do the survey, to do the wetlands, to take the initial conceptual plan and place it on the site. And that was the scope of our services to the
Well,
city.
According to the discussion, if we do change it, there's a question about whether we can put it where it's designed to go now or put it back where it was, right? Right?
Right.
Good question.
So can we at least get some input from them and say, you know, give us 30 days or something, to at least find out before they go and spend any money?
I don't think it'd be a problem just to tell them to put it on hold where we got it for now.
And I'm not for holding up any stuff, but
Understood.
these are kind of extenuating circumstances.
I can contact that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
On canal dredging, all that have we identified the volume of sand that's still to be dredged?
That's what we provided to Dina, we're working with her now, she's working through how that cross section is actually tying in, because she has that existing information, so we'll be working together with her to get the volume determination.
She's determining the volume from that data?
We are.
Y'all are?
Us
Okay.
and her together.
Okay, Dana, you on the line?
She had to drop off.
She dropped off.
Another meeting.
All right, do y'all have some idea, I mean, we've been telling FEMA we're gonna give them that for, I don't know how long, do you know when that's gonna be done?
There's no reason we shouldn't be able to get it this week with all the data there.
Okay. All right, and on the dedicated landscaping on, from, 8th Street to the county line, 386, tell me, I don't understand in reading this, where are we? What is the, we've conducted an analysis, do we have a preliminary plan?
Preliminary plan should be forthcoming, but as David mentioned,
That's the
gentleman that we were
throwback,
subcontracted to had a
the
deal
person
with that.
providing that is the one that.
Correct.
Okay, all right, I'm with you now. Okay. All right. Questions for Dewberry? Anybody?
The handwriting on the walkover, who inspects it? Tom, you do that?
Yeah.
I just happened to go to the beach. I had to go to the beach this weekend. There's a couple of places, I think it's, what, 6, that's a shabby job there with that handwriting.
We've got a punch list on those as well.
No, I
know, what I'm saying, we have a punch list developed from what our inspectors did, but it may be of value to have one of my guys potentially meet one of you out here this week to make sure that's covered in that punch list, where when we provide it to the contractor, they do everything.
That's good, that's good. Thank you. It's just, it's just, I know it's brand new, but it just don't, it's just not hard.
Thank you, and.
Good man.
Kevin.
David.
Thank you.
David.
I'll.
That's all right, hell no, I can't get it. Thank you, Dave. All right. Moving on to, Sharon, you have anything?
I'm good out.
You good? Darryl?
I'm good.
I'll go, the only thing, and this, I don't even know how this would play into the city, but I had a call from Marty and, who's the postmaster? The lady?
Marty and Lori.
Lori, thank you. Lori, and they're telling me that they felt like that under their contract, that for those that don't know, our little post office is under what they call, it's a subcontract. It's not a federal post office. It's by, you bid on it and it's done privately. It has been that way for years. And this is more of a brainstorming. If anybody, they have looked around, they said, to try to find a place to move. And I think it's obvious to all of us, that's just doesn't exist around here for their contract. Remember, they don't have any way to increase their revenue because of it's a federal post office and they have only, you can't sell a stamp for $1. But anyway, it appears after talking to them that this month, at the end of this month, if they can't come to some arrangements, that they will, our post office will be leaving. And that is just, under these conditions, is just absolutely a terrible thing. I did talk to, I met Tommy and I looked at the old office where we used to meet, or they used to have a little meeting in the old fire station down there, that building. But the renovations to it are simply, in my opinion, they're too, it just take too much money to get them. And I think they said they were paying, I forget what the rent was, but it was modest. What they've been paying now. And then what they would be paying, I think it's close to $500 more than what they are paying now. So, anyway, if anybody has an extra bedroom or something, a post office, I don't know what the city, we certainly don't have any, that's the only building we have. And it's just in, Tommy had a paper, I believe it was in the $75,000 range to get it insulated, get it. But, just more for the people that are listening to this meeting, and those that are here, our post office may be, I don't know, I think they were gonna talk to the new owner the way Laura talked, they had done it once, they were gonna try to talk again to him, to give him more time. But, so if anybody's got any suggestions, or think of any way that we could help them, the city, often other cities, I mean, you can rent, we have the capacity to rent if we had something, but I don't know what that would be, so, that's all I have.
I assume the new owners has gone up too high on the rent for them to keep.
Yeah, at the end of the month is what she told me, and I talked to her Friday, she called me, and she was distraught. I mean, that's their livelihood, and I believe it was like $480, it was right at $500.
More?
More.
Don't sound like a good new owner to
Yeah.
me.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just because we deal with the cash is out or whatever, we have to go to St. Joe's to pick up packages all the time.
Yeah.
What, and, I mean, maybe this has happened years ago before we moved here, so I'm just out of the loop on this. What do we have to do to have a real government post office here? Because St. Joe, every time I say, well, why can't you just drop our package at the post office when the little mail lady goes by, they said, because that's not a real post office, so we can't do that.
Well, I'm gonna give you my brief story of trying to do that.
Okay.
It's a federal agency. I went all the way to New Orleans to talk to he's even above the district, I forget what they called it. And they were sort of like talking to people. You can't find anybody to make a decision. I didn't. Now, supposedly, the proper way is you go through your Congress people. But,
Well,
I mean, I don't know anymore. I did everything I knew to find, this was about 10 years ago, we got involved in trying to get us a post office. We had people that were gonna buy a lot, gonna build a building, and they rent it to the government.
yeah. Well, my question is, the post office we have, if you look at what's being built with Sugar Sands, and then the development that St. Joe's doing, and just all the different developments we have coming, we're gonna have more residents here. So I don't even know that post office has enough post office boxes for all the people who will be here. So,
I understand. All thing I can say, and I say this in jest, because I don't know what else to do. The Postmaster General has been on the news almost every day in the Nashville, Washington. Maybe we go call him. I mean, I don't know. I honestly do not know how to find someone, do y'all know the postmaster in St. Joe? It used to be Gohagan, but he's gone.
Daryl somebody.
Daryl Lincoln.
Yeah.
Oh, is Daryl Linton the postmaster?
Yes.
Okay, well, that would start the chain to whoever signs his check, and then whoever signs his check, and, but there is a protocol for that is massive. That's all I can say. And yet I ride through the little Southport over there, and they've got one of the nicest little brick post offices as you can see, so maybe we'll have to start a campaign. I honestly don't know. But it may be for those, if any of you are using the post office, I don't know what happens in short notice. You just don't get your address changed quickly anymore. I don't know what happens if they shut down, how that'll work. But it definitely will be a issue for our community, no question. And if any of you know the guy that has bought the thing, maybe speak. Try to get him to give those folks a little time out there. Because again, see, they're under contract. They can't go and say, I need,
When's their contract renewal?
I believe, I didn't ask for it. I don't know. All right, Jerry, you got anything?
I just, that's more of that one, it's just not the post office, it's the flower place, the liquor store, I talked to him yesterday, and I'm gonna try to get the man's number from Texas, I'm gonna I believe we need to call and let it, how important that post office, plus the store, you know, that's our livelihood in my neighborhood, is you can drive your
Well,
golf cart.
see, I didn't ask any of the rest of
Yeah,
the renters out there, but I guess it's safe to assume
Yeah.
that they all have potential rent increases that affect them all.
I'm renting dirt, and he knew exactly how much pennies I needed to owe him. The guy's not, I don't really think he cares. Here's what his intention is, whether it happens or not, is to cover that whole thing with a climate-controlled storage place. That's what his intention is. And for him to lose people, evidently he's got the pockets where he can lose everybody and not really care about it. He's not a mean guy, but he's certainly not one of us.
Well, he needs to know we're a small town, and it travels.
But he bought it, it's his, and whether we like him or not, he's doing what he wants. But I have told him that if he raises our rent, then he needs to give us 30 days and we'll be gone, because we're barely breaking even on the nursery.
Well, if we lose the nursery, if you just take the whole, collectively, everyone that's out there, and you lose that, you know, I mean, the market, the beer and wine, the glass, the little shop on the end, I can't think of the name of it, but yeah, I mean, that's, it's not like we got 2 or 3 of them we're at, so, that's,
I just sent you his number, Mr. Jerry.
there you go.
Send me his number, please.
Sent you both, there's 2 guys, I sent you both of them.
Thank you, he'll get a call today. We got to have, I mean, anyway, I can't.
Maybe just give people a chance to get a little.
Well, I want him to meet, I want him to see what he's up against. You know, money's not everything.
You got anything about?
Believe it or not, no.
No.
Oh, come on, man.
I'm gonna throw up your hands, Bob.
All right, last call, any last comments? Motion for adjournment. Thank you everyone for coming.